Minion is behind us, but the competition continues. Our next tourist has been a pain in almost every level so far. It's Axel. They shied away from using 2D sprites in this game because they looked terrible in the first game. They get away with it with Axel because he's between two gigantic wheels, so you can't really see that he's 2D. And he's been stuck between those wheels for 20 years. 10 years longer than there's been a Twisted Metal competition. I guess vehicular torture is just a constant in this universe. Seems like what he wants from Calypso is emotional support as he confronts the man who put him in this situation. He could probably just wish to be free, but that's not his style, I guess. We started off this competition in the second largest city in North America, and we're kicking off the second half in the largest city in North America, New York. You'd almost think they'd want to bookend the game with the American cities, sort of make a full circle statement. And the music here certainly has a sense of finality to it. Up-tempo organs tend to do that. Not to mention that this is the rooftop level. In every other canon Twisted Metal game, the rooftop level is the last one. Not here, though. Across the slanted rooftops, through the New York fashion billboard that has a power missile inside. Then there's this structure. It's got power missiles on top of it, but getting up there is extremely difficult. You gotta jump just right, because if you clip the corner while you're jumping, you'll bounce off and won't be able to get up there. It is weird that they put a pickup there, and now that the block is destroyed, you can never get those power missiles again. In all my practice attempts, I only was able to get it that one time, just to prove that it is technically possible. Then I crushed Roadkill to death, for the minor inconvenience of blowing that hole in the roof. Quite a lot to see in this level, it's uncommonly ambitious. Nonetheless, this level tends to go by pretty fast, especially if you're in a well-armored vehicle with a pretty strong special, as is the case with Axel here. Gotta get our sightseeing done before everyone dies. Starting with Lady Liberty, whose torch seems to have gone out. Much better. And if we keep firing at her, we can see one of those things that every kid called all their friends over to show off. Statue of Liberty in a bikini. I got the body-shaming version, which I didn't know existed. This is actually the one that I expected to see. Much more Justin Bailey. No matter which one you get, if you keep firing at it, it'll be destroyed completely. I think it's just random chance which version appears. After this recording, it took me like 5 tries to get the skinny one to show up, just so I could show that off. That was our big showy destructible for the level. Elsewhere on that same roof is the hole that Roadkill blew open. Dropping through it lands us in a pool. There you can get some missiles. And inside the pool is a health pickup. You're gonna want to get that, because some of the other enemies followed me down here. They are dangerously close to that health. I'm gonna want it before they get it. Just use my shield to power through it and get out of that underwater pileup. Over to the locker rooms, each of which has some kind of weapon inside. They are really hard to navigate, because those slightly raised edges count as walls that you can't roll over. But we got the goods, now let's put them to use. The remote bomb killed Grasshopper, because Grasshopper has the lowest possible armor. And just to show it off, you can also leap back into the exit of the pool area. Not very useful. I did want to come back here to finish off Outlaw, but she refuses to suffer the same fate that Grasshopper did. Rejected us and sent us right back to the rooftops. It's a good thing this level takes place on top of the skyscrapers of New York, though, and that the Statue of Liberty is the only iconic part of the skyline that we can get our murderous hands on. That edgy comic book that I talked about last time, it also depicts the New York City battle of this competition, but in that version it takes place on the streets of New York. It goes about as poorly as you could expect, and it ends with the contestants doing 9/11. Yeah, it's pretty unpleasant. But there's none of that here. It's just part of some weird comic book that no one had any way to know about for many years. Now we're doing pretty good. We've killed most of the competition, but Axel's gotten pretty beat up in the process. When that happens, his right arm rips off as part of the damaged look of his vehicle. It's pretty morbid. There's a few ways to fix it, but here's the one I'm choosing. That's funny, the streetlights here in the center of the level appear to spell out up L1 triangle right. That's the code that unlocks Sweet Tooth, which is another thing that you would sort of expect to see in the final level of the game, not just somewhere in the middle. Sacrificing myself to show that off got me all prepped to take out that last tiny bit of Outlaw 2's health bar. Don't want to be too hasty about it though. Could accidentally drive to my death, just as easily as I did it intentionally. Plus there's some stuff I haven't seen quite yet. This hotel, I like to call it over here. Haven't seen much beyond the top floor. That elevator shaft there. You can enter it at any of the 3 levels that are available, and the higher you enter it, the more stuff you get. Top level has napalm, the second level has fire missiles, and the bottom level has a full health recharge. That's the easiest one to access. Then when you get to the bottom level, there's a teleporter that sends you all the way up to the roof of the hotel. Or you can stay down here, continue to explore this lowest level. This is where the exit to the pool area lets out. And off at the opposite side from the pool is a second teleporter. It sends you to the top of the... I like to think of it as a parking garage, but obviously it wouldn't be this high up. There's just one lone civilian hanging out up here. He almost made it through the battle. What I'm doing right now is inputting a cheat code that is specific to Axel. When you enter it, his ramming damage is greatly increased. People think this might have inspired Axel's alternate special in future games where he closes the wheels in on himself and spouts spikes out of them, which also causes his ramming damage to increase. But there's no visual change when you do it in this game. Not that I needed it. Scared Outlaw backwards off of a building, and she fell to her death. Had to show off one falling death here, besides my own. And that nets us a New York-style thin crust victory. Let's go visit Calypso and get our wish, which for once won't be a very long trip because all of the endings of this game take place here in New York.
Axel stood before me and asked me for the one prize he wanted more than anything. The strength to face his father, who had bound him in this hellish contraption over 30 years ago.
Why have you come back? I thought I'd gotten rid of you.
Father, please, release me.
You were always too slow, too damn stupid, and you still are. Gonna take 10 more years on the wheels to set you right. You need to be taught a lesson.
No, Father, I've learned my lesson. Let me show you what I've learned.
Oh my God. Oh no. Oh my God.
I am a free man. and you are no longer my father.
Axel disappeared into the Kansas fields. To this day, he has yet to be seen. I am Calypso, and I thank you for playing Twisted Metal.
Axel sure has a flair for the dramatic, as demonstrated in his famously gory ending. He could have had anything, but he seems to insist on suffering as much as humanly possible by ripping his own arms off. I also enjoy how much they managed to retcon in such a small period of time. They retroactively locked Axel on those wheels for 30 years instead of 20, and they said to this day he's never been seen again when he's in almost every Twisted Metal game after this. Now, this is about where I would normally direct you to the ending of another vehicle, but I'm going to forego that tradition once again, and instead talk about Darkseid's story. As I hinted at many times, there is quite a bit of evidence suggesting that the New York level was meant to be the final level of the game. But if that had been the case, who would have been the boss? Well, there's a piece of concept art depicting Sweet Tooth battling Darkseid on this rooftops level. According to the developer's commentary on this image, though, the helicopter in the corner was meant to be the boss for the level. There's even a more clear image of what the boss helicopter was going to look like, with Sweet Tooth's face on it and everything. Rumors persist that Darkseid was going to be a boss fight for this game, and indeed would be a boss fight in later games. But my best guess is that the idea for this image was conceived after Darkseid was downgraded to just a regular driver, if it was ever meant to be a boss in the first place. Darkseid was definitely planned for the game though, we even saw it modeled in the background of one of the menus. But the story of Mr. Ash, the driver of Darkseid in the first game, ended up being applied to Minion. This could just be a coincidence, or maybe they just liked it better when applied to Minion. But regardless, they could not have Mr. Ash in the same game as this version of Minion. There is, however, one driver who is also known to be cut from Twisted Metal 2, a character called Granny Dark. She too would appear in a later game in the series, in a slightly different form. And there's no evidence that she was going to be the driver of Darkseid, but it seems the most likely scenario. If that's the case, I'm kinda glad they were both cut. Comedy grandmas are not really a good fit for Twisted Metal. That's all we really know about why Darkseid fell off the map after the first game. See you next time for a discussion of a vehicle that actually appears in Twisted Metal 2.